Hi, my name is Isabella Brzozowski, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the Salem witch trials. Before we begin talking about the Salem witch trials, I would first like to introduce you to some background information, including what was happening with Salem at the time, who were witches, and what witch hunts were. Witch hunts were common globally, starting most notably around 1300 and ending sometime in the 18th century. It is believed that around 110,000 people were tried for witchcraft, and approximately 40 to 60,000 were executed, the last known execution being in Switzerland in 1782. Witch hunts are efforts to identify witches. Witches were considered to be people who were followers of Satan and traded their souls for his assistance. They also employed demons to accomplish their magical deeds. During the time of 1689 to 1692, Massachusetts did not have a governor nor a royal charter, marking a time of instability. This was due to the overthrow of the Andros government in 1689 in Boston, following the Glorious Revolution in England. In 1689, Samuel Parris became the reverend of the village's Congregational Church. This caused a village and church divide, as some residents refused to join his congregation. This could be due to the fact that he divided the village between the chosen and the wicked and unconverted in his aggressive sermons. Now that we know some background information, let's talk about the trials. In the Parris home, his daughter Betty, niece Abigail Williams, and slave Tituba were said to have been practicing occult rituals. This included voodoo, fortune telling, and witchcraft. However, original sources have never mentioned this. It is said to be embellished from 18th and 19th century literary fiction. Soon after, the young girls began experiencing fits. In these fits, the girls were screaming, making odd sounds, having biting and pinching sensations over their body, and it is said they were deprived of all senses. Soon after, word spread, and other girls in town became afflicted with these symptoms. When neither prayer nor medicine cured the girls, the worried Parrises turned to the only other explanation: witchcraft. Parris pressured the girls to name their tormentor. The girls gave in and named Tituba, Sarah Good, and Sarah Osborne. After being beaten, Tituba confessed to being visited by the devil and making a deal with him. She said she saw the devil's book and was forced to sign it. She saw Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne's name, along with other names from the community, but she could not distinctly see who they were. Over the course of the year, around 1,600 people are named in around 950 court records, thus resulting in 162 arrests, 54 confessions, 28 convictions, 19 executions, and 5 deaths in jail due to the poor conditions, spanning across 24 communities in Massachusetts. The accused were forced to defend themselves without counsel, and the controversial spectral evidence was allowed. 5 girls were called upon to act out these fits to confirm their accusations. The girls belonged to important families of important church members who feared the church was under attack. This is a quote from Cotton Mather, someone who was at the trials himself. This specific quote is from the trial of Bridget Bishop, where they called upon 5 girls to act out their evidence. If she did but cast her eyes on them, they were presently struck down, and this in such a manner as there could be no collusion in the business, but upon the touch of her hand upon them, when they lay in their swoons, they would immediately revive, and not upon the touch of anyone else's. Moreover, upon some special actions of her body, as the shaking of her head or the turning of her eyes, they presently and painfully fell into the like postures. The accused who confessed were set free. Others were sentenced to prison or executed. Most notably, a past minister from Salem from 1680 to 1683. He was taken from his home in Maine and hanged along with 4 others. Before he died, he recited the Lord's Prayer perfectly, which is said that witches couldn't do. People in the crowd began protesting his hanging, but he was still hanged. Another important death was that of Charles Corey. Giles was pressed to death. He laid flat as they put weight on him until he confessed to being a witch. However, he never confessed and was only saying more weight. The trials ended when those accused were the highest people in society, including the governor's wife. Now that we know what the trials were, I would like to talk about the possible causes. There are a multitude of causes that have been widely debated throughout the years. It is noted by many that the afflictions were fake, the reason unknown. Some say the girls were poisoned, a result of PTSD from the Indian Wars. They were coerced by higher members of the church. Their rye was infected with the fungus ergot, which is similar to having LSD. Child abuse, Lyme's disease, and epilepsy. Reasons for the town's hysteria could have been caused by the lack of a fully constituted government, the smallpox epidemic that had passed recently, belief in the devil, fear of attack from Indian tribes and their French allies, inflation, and neighboring border disputes. The lasting legacy. The Salem witch trials have been studied and written about by scholars over the last 300 plus years. There have been some individual and institutional acts of repentance. In January of 1697, the General Court of Massachusetts declared a day of fasting in remembrance. In 1702, the General Court of Massachusetts declared the trials unlawful. 22 out of the 33 convicted were exonerated in 1711 by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, paying some money towards the families. In 1957, the state of Massachusetts formally apologized. In 2001, the last 11 were exonerated. U.S. court procedures were changed. Some changes include the guarantee right to legal representation, the ability to cross-examine one's accuser, and the status of innocent until proven guilty. They were also used in a multitude of stories as metaphors, symbols, or the story itself, most notably The Crucible by Arthur Miller, The Scarlet Letter, and Young Goodman Brown by Nathaniel Hawthorne. In conclusion, the Salem witch trials was a dark time in Massachusetts history and is still talked about today as an important event and something that should be remembered. From the Salem witch trials, many recommendations were made to the U.S. court procedures, which have changed the way that the court is done today. Thank you.